Welcome to our spotlight snippet on building community through the lens of belonging. We ask that you please rename yourself if you have not already with your first and last name. And I ask that you please enable your cameras. A link will be dropped into the chat soon. It'll be the graphic organizer for our session today. You will have all of the important links, any important articles we will talk about, and all of the tools and strategies that I'll be sharing with you all today. And once you get that link, once you click it, it'll force you to make a copy, and you can throw all of your notes in there, whatever you would like to do with that graphic organizer. So we are going to get started. So again, thank you so much for being here and welcome. I want you to feel comfortable and welcome, just as you do want for your students in the classroom, the whole purpose of this session today. So I am Britannia Kemp. I am a student in residence with MindSpark. My email is here on the slide, and it's included in your graphic organizer, just in case you guys want to reach out to me after the session with any follow-up, any questions, comments, concerns, any resources you would like to hear more about. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm also joined here today with my colleague, Victoria James. She is on support, so she'll be dropping all those links and all those resources and tools into the chat as we go through our session today. So just a disclaimer before we hop into all of our exciting content. This is not a curriculum. I'm not proposing a specific model of creating a space of belonging in your classroom. I'm just giving you the strategies and tools that you can use to encourage that community building in your classroom. And you know your students in your setting best. So it'll be up to you to take all of the content that we have today and make any connections and any adjustments that you see fit for you and your students. And also, this session is being recorded. So our norms for today, very simple. I see you guys already have. Please enable your cameras when you're sharing aloud so we can see those beautiful faces. And also, please be actively engaged and have fun. The content we are engaging in today is very exciting, very insightful, very valuable. So have fun with it and do with it what you please. You're going to see these two icons when we need you to type a response into the chat or when we need you to join a breakout room. So our outcomes for our session today, we are going to engage with the concept of belonging in the classroom and, understand what it looks like in the classroom and understand what belonging is. And we are going to learn how to effectively utilize these strategies and tools for creating a classroom community that allows students to feel that they genuinely belong in your classroom. Okay, enough with all the logistics. We're going to start with a whole group icebreaker. So we're going to respond to this prompt. How do you know when you belong somewhere? How do you know you belong in a space, whether it's physical or virtual? So you're going to go into a breakout room, discuss this a little bit with your colleagues, peers who are on this call. And then once you come up with some responses, we ask that you add your responses, as many as you can, to our Jamboard. That link will be included in the chat soon. Once you click on that, it'll take you to our Jamboard link. Pull that up for you guys, sorry. I have so many tabs open right now. Once you click that Jamboard link, it'll take you to our Jamboard. You can insert your responses here. All of the tools you will need to insert responses are on the left here. We have the pen, the stylus, and the pointer. You can use the sticky note, insert your response, change colors if you're feeling spicy today, and then save and add your response if you like to delete, backspace really quick. So yes, use those first two slides to insert any responses. So have fun. I'll see you back in about 5 minutes. Welcome back, guys. I see some awesome responses on this Jamboard, and definitely a lot of these resonate with me. They help me feel that I belong in a space. I just want to go over a few because these are very valuable Calm and peaceful is definitely a huge one. Others ask you about yourself. Yes, sharing your experiences and who you are, and free to be yourself. That's an awesome one. Others look similar. Safety. People like the things that I like. Yes, yes, yes. These are great, guys. You do so awesome with this icebreaker. So let's dive into the content. So belonging, the reason we're here. So UC Berkeley identified and researched a fairly new concept that can create more genuinely inclusive spaces for individuals. The Othering and Belonging Institute with their university addresses how we can acknowledge and cultivate belonging in any space, and most importantly, in a classroom. So belonging can be a very hefty topic to tackle because, it's a lot that comes with it. But the easiest way to think about this is with Dr. Jamal Matthews' 4 H's of belonging-centered instruction. You'll see this on the screen. And, this professor recommended that centering learning spaces and content around the 4 H's on the screen they promote a sense of relaxation and comfort in the classroom. And, this leads your students to being more receptive to the content and, being more relaxed in your space because they feel that they belong in the space. So our 4 H's that we have are home, hobbies, hopes, and heritage. Pretty basic. They sound like what they are. So home, what experiences and activities do your students engage in their homes? What is their family background? What do they come from? Their hobbies, what is interesting to them? What interests them? What do they like to do in their extra time? And, how can you incorporate those interests into your learning content? Hopes. All of our students for the most part, have dreams and aspirations. So what are the dreams and aspirations of your students? And, how can you help them reach these goals through your learning content and in your learning space? And then finally, heritage, which kind of connects back to home. Who is your student? What cultural practices do they engage in when they're at home and in any other space? And, what populations do they identify with? So those 4 H's of belonging, that article will be dropped into the chat if it has not been already. I would recommend reading more into this. This was just a quick synopsis of these 4 H's. So when creating a space of belonging, we have to acknowledge that there is also the possibility of students feeling the opposite of belonging, which is othering. The learning space, and this is when the learning space, does not feel welcoming to the student. They don't feel seen, they don't feel heard as an individual. And what this can look like, pretty straightforward, just like the 4 H's. This could look like your student, not having a voice. Their perspective and opinion do not go heard. They don't go heard in the classroom, or they go overlooked. No representation. They do not see themselves, their culture, their interests in the space or in the learning content. No recognition. They go unseen. Their work goes unseen. No constructive feedback, no praise, etc. And then no power. They have no say in their learning, no control over their learning, no autonomy over what they're learning. So, try to be cognizant of avoiding these 4 things that can cause othering in the classroom. So I actually got guys to type into the chat or share out loud if you would like to. How do you think it affects students when they feel othered in the classroom?
I'll just share. Maybe they wouldn't be able to focus on the content in the class.
Yeah, that is a huge one. Yeah, I can't focus if I don't feel like you're teaching to me. I see Sarah put, they shut down, they feel fear, and then you can't learn. Absolutely. You guys are kind of diving into the extra content that we might have later on. So there will be a future spotlight engagement that speaks to, how to address and repair the harm that students face and experience from experiencing othering in the classroom. So let's keep going. So this quote and image are both from the Othering and Belonging Institute, and it perfectly lays out the gradual growth leading up to what belonging really is and what it looks like in the classroom. So as you can see in the image, exclusion is leaving out those dots out of a particular space. And then inclusion is bringing those dots into the space. And then belonging is creating the dynamic space for as many little dots to come in and exist in a way that is most comfortable for them. And the Othering and Belonging Institute from UC Berkeley said this quote, "The opposite of othering is not staining, but belonging." We are not trying to mold students into fitting into one space, into one type of a student that we need. We are accepting our students for who they are and creating the space to encourage, sharing who you are as an individual. So that brings us to our guide to creating a classroom of belonging. So we are going to engage with strategies on how to create a classroom of belonging and accompanying tools. Cornell University developed 4 specific strategies to use when you want to create a space of belonging. We're going to engage with these strategies, but through the lens of an educator, of course, and how to cultivate belonging in our classrooms specifically. And it's important to note that each of these strategies are connected in some way, and you're gonna see that like hinted out throughout as we review these strategies and tools. So as I just mentioned, there will be a tool going with each strategy. This is included in your graphic organizer just to refer back to. Very helpful. For each strategy, there will be a concrete tool that you guys can utilize and implement into your classroom when you're trying to create these spaces of belonging. So let's get into it. So our first strategy today is intentional connections, and the tool for intentional connections is the 2x10 theory. So intentional connections is about understanding who your students are, what they're interested in, and how you can incorporate this into your teaching. A great way to get to know your students is by utilizing the 2x10 theory. This was developed by Alan Mindler in the book Connecting with Students. This theory tells you to think of your relationships with your students as a 2x10 plank of wood. Get that image in your head. So 2x10 doesn't seem like a lot at all, but it is something you can build with. In the classroom, we'll convert this 2x10 plank of wood into having meaningful conversations with your students for 2 minutes a day for 10 days. Simple, just to get to know your student. So the 2 minutes equals 1 plank of wood, and you continue to build and build and build with your students. So you have that meaningful relationship with them. I do want to note that this strategy was created for challenging students, but it's a great way to connect with any students because who doesn't have 2 minutes to have a conversation with your students? So the 2x10 theory, that'll be linked in your graphic organizer, and the link will be shared into the chat. So our tool for the 2x10 theory is our planning document, and I will share that with you guys. So it'll be linked in your graphic organizer, of course, and dropped into the chat as well. So this template just lays out how you can start these conversations. If you don't know where to start, like, who do I start with? What do I say? This template helps you out. It answers all of those questions for you. It highlights the big 4 that you need to focus on when implementing the 2x10 theory. So who are you talking to? When will you talk to them? What is your plan for talking to them, especially when those students don't feel like talking or show that they don't feel like talking? And what will you ask your students? How will you, engage in that conversation? And yeah, so I know I went over it super quick. This is a great tool. The tool also includes like how you can continue the conversation and how you can use the information that you learned from those 2 minutes and how you can incorporate that into your classroom. So please use that. Our second strategy is trusting relationships, which is going to lead us into our second tool, which is empathy interviews. So a great way to answer those what prompts from the 2x10 theory, and a great way to build trusting relationships is through empathy interviews. An empathy interview uses a human-centered approach to understand the feelings and experiences of others beyond the surface level, beyond what you may see or what you may think about a student. So we're going to review a quick example. I won't play the entire video, but while we're viewing this example, take note of the strategies that the interviewer uses while conducting this interview.
Got me?
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going.
Look really tired.
I'm exhausted.
Perfect. Oh, I mean, I don't know what to say that, but I'm actually working on projects
Okay.
to help people have great, better morning experiences to people. So would you be okay if I interviewed you for like a couple minutes?
Yeah, it's totally good.
Sweet. So yeah, so why were you tired?
I didn't get enough sleep last night.
So what was that?
I went to bed pretty late.
Okay, I know that was just a quick glimpse of what an empathy interview looks like, but take note of all those follow-up questions, all those genuine concern for any information shared from the interviewee. There will be a link in your graphic organizer to read more about empathy interviews and what they look like, and all the tips to conducting an empathy interview. So our third strategy is purposeful storytelling. And our third tool to go with this is digital journaling apps. So I'm going to share this quote with you all. Please read with me as I read aloud. There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. So from empathy interviews, we learned that we can give our students the opportunity to be seen through the telling of their own stories and experiences. So our students have so many experiences and stories to tell that we may never know unless we ask them, have them talk about what they experience and everything. And it starts with you. It's okay, model that it's okay to be vulnerable, to tell your story, to tell your experience and share out. So our third tool to go with this is digital journaling apps. So in light of time, I will not review all of this, but it is linked in your graphic organizer, some very, very helpful journaling apps that you can use to create these prompts to talk to your students and just learn a little more about them and who they are and what experiences do they have that you may not know about. So let's keep going. Our last and final strategy and tool is inviting other opinions and perspectives. And our tool is reflective questioning. This is our only tool that is not a concrete tool because it is on you as the educator to take it into your own hands and fix that content, fix that environment to fit a more belonging framework. So this is also included in your graphic organizer. It is just 5 main prompts that you should consider every time your students step into your classroom. How you can invite those opinions and perspectives, and are you inviting those opinions and perspectives? And because of time, we are not going to be able to engage in our little activity, our little reflective activity for these prompts. But I do ask that you please look into this because this might be the most important thing about, creating belonging in your classroom. Big tip, I would recommend printing this out and putting it in your face somewhere so you can see it every time you're about to start a class session with your students. Which brings us to our connection circle. Please feel free to share out loud which tool discussed today are you looking forward to implementing into your own classroom? I know we zoomed through all those tools and all those strategies, but which one grabbed your attention the most? And that is okay too. If we are still reflecting on all of these tools, I completely understand. Please, in your spare time, review all of those amazing strategies, all of those tools. They are all in your graphic organizer. And yeah.
Sandy, if I can just jump in. Yeah, no, I mean, having had the honor and pleasure of serving as your teacher in the past, I just love what you shared about the 2 minutes, the 2x10 tool. And yeah, who doesn't have 2 minutes? It doesn't have to be highly structured. It doesn't have to be official appointment with a student, but building out those small chunks of time during our day to connect, especially with students whom we may, have struggled to build that relationship with at the start of the school year. I loved that tool in particular. And yeah, that's one that stood out to me.
And for me, I think still being in the virtual, we're still doing remote learning. The digital journaling and stuff like that would probably come in very handy.
And I was going to say the apps, I'm glad to have that list too for the journaling, because I was most recently a tech teacher. And so I was always looking for tools that actually served a learning purpose. And again, that storytelling piece, I think, is a really big takeaway.
Thank you guys so much. It warms my heart that you guys gained something and are excited to implement these tools into your own classrooms. Again, please, in your spare time, go back over that graphic organizer, pull out all that important information, and reflect on it, implement it, whatever you would like to do with that content. Okay. We are at the end of our session, and I want to say thank you guys so much for joining us today and participating and following along to this fast-paced content. A link has been put in the chat for you to complete the evaluation and the attendance. I will show you how to do that now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelly. So once you do this, you click on the link, click other, type in my name. I know it's a little tricky spelling, and then fill out this quick feedback. And do not click out after you complete this, because you have to do your attendance. Our feedback is anonymous, so we need to still collect your attendance. So after you hit submit, please do not exit out. Click this link right here, and it'll lead you to our attendance so we can, check you on down for attendance today.
And if you enjoyed and found today's content useful, do note that we will be having an additional engagement later on in this spring related to content, as Virtania mentioned in the beginning, that will go into this content as well as additional pieces in more depth. All right, and then Tanny, if you would just scroll up, the session that everybody attended today is the snippet on belonging. That's what you can type in to indicate the session that you attended. Again, thank you all so much for your time, for your engagement today. We know it went by pretty quick, but you will receive a follow-up email with this recording as well as the graphic organizer if you want to pass that along to colleagues or friends, and definitely be on the lookout for our future engagement later this spring related to belonging and how we can cultivate that culture of belonging in our classrooms, which will be a little longer, a little bit more in depth, 90 minutes total. But thank you all so much again for providing us that advice and that feedback. We really do appreciate it.